Hello. Well, gives us immense pleasure to present our work at International Joint Conference on Neural Networks. And the title, I'm Snehanshu Saha. I'm the presenter of the talk, and my co-authors, Shailesh Sridhar, Azhar Sheikh, Rahul Yedida, and Sriparna Saha. So the title of the talk is Parsimonious Computing, a minority training regime for effective prediction in large microarray expression datasets. Let me begin by saying that uh, rigorous mathematical investigation of learning rates used in backpropagation in shallow neural networks has become a necessity these days, mainly because of the training cost, and the experimental evidence needs to be endorsed by a theoretical background. These are the two main reasons we think. And now such theory may be helpful in reducing the volume of experimental effort to accomplish desired results. And we leverage the functional property of mean square error, which is Lipschitz continuous to compute learning rate in shallow neural networks. And we claim and will prove that during our presentation that our approach reduces tuning efforts, especially when a significant corpus of data has to be handled. And we achieve remarkable improvement in saving computational cost while surpassing prediction accuracy reported in literature. The learning rate proposed here is the inverse of the Lipschitz constant. The work results in a novel method for carrying out gene expression inference on a large microarray datasets with a shallow neural architecture. This is important, and it's also constrained by limited computing resources. A combination of random subsampling of the dataset and adaptive Lipschitz constant inspired learning rate and a new activation function which is also proposed, which is known as the approximate ReLU. These three things helped us accomplish the results reported in the paper and the presentation. Okay, so the idea is we present a neural network that uses a substantially smaller number of neurons in a single hidden layer. It is also reasonable to believe that the reduction in computing units will limit the representational power of the network. I mean, in order to counter the limitation, we employ an adaptive learning rate based on the Lipschitz constant and an activation function that is more suitable for the given task. Okay. To give a brief introduction on what gene expression profiling is about, I mean, it is used for studying gene expression patterns for determining genetic behavior of cells. And this information could be used in various scenarios such as drug treatment and disease. And out of the 22,000 genes across the entire human genome, approximately 1,000 are earmarked as landmark genes, and their expression values can be used to computationally infer the expression values of the remaining genes or the target genes. Now, there are methods like linear regression and kernel techniques, and both of these methods have given suboptimal performance. So very recently, I think a couple of years back, a deep learning approach known as DGEX has recorded state-of-the-art performance. So our work is built upon this by not only beating the previous state-of-the-art optimizer, but also doing so with a shallower neural network through a new activation function and a novel adaptive learning rate. Okay. In order to summarize the contribution here, we try to solve the multi-target, multivariate regression problem of gene expression profiling under conditions of compute and model parsimony. Okay, so the idea was that we will not use too much of computational resources. Okay, and therefore we need to bring out something in terms of the model as well. Okay, so that we finish this task in a reasonable time as well as achieve an accuracy that at least matches the state of the art presented. And we will evaluate the efficacy of using a novel Lipschitz adaptive learning rate and a newer activation function. I mean, I need to state here that the Lipschitz adaptive learning rate that we are proposing here for a particular loss function, which is the mean square error, right, should be effective for other kind of data sets as well. Okay, so the work that these guys presented in the DGEX paper, which is the state-of-the-art optimizer paper, is they have used mean square error as a training error and mean absolute error as the test error. So we have also used the same. Okay. All right. So now a quick word about the data set. The gene expression omnibus, it consists of 129,158 gene expression profiles containing 22,268 gene probes, and out of which 978 are landmark genes, and the remaining 21,290 are the target genes. And the final ready-to-use data has 111,009 profiles. The dataset, the geo dataset itself is quite large, with a training data size greater than 3 GB, and therefore the entire data corpus is impossible to train on a laptop naively. So what we have done is we have split the data in random subsamples, in random different subsamples, okay, and then we presented a representative mean absolute error was obtained by the averaging across the individual subsamples, and we have done this several times, and each and every time we have looked at the MAE across one subsample and compared the MAE across the other subsample, so that there is not much of a standard deviation between the two. Okay, all right. So, and this will take care of the disparity between the subsamples. So to the model now. So as I said, we have used mean square error as a loss function because in a neural network you need to define a loss function. What kind of loss function you got to construct to know the difference between your prediction and your target, right? Okay, so there are several loss functions that people use. Mean square error, binary cross entropy if you have more than two classes to infer, right? Hinge loss, and there are different sorts of loss functions. So we have used exactly what the state-of-the-art paper have done, which is while training we will use mean square error as a loss function, and while testing it's a mean absolute error. Now since we are using mean square error as a loss function, therefore we can show that this particular loss function exhibits certain properties. Okay, one of the properties that it exhibits is it's a Lipschitz continuous. Well, Lipschitz continuity is something that I give you two sort of inputs, right? Okay, the output, the difference between the output of those inputs x1 and x2 is sort of constrained, is actually contracted by a positive integer which is known as L, or the Lipschitz constant. Okay, all right. And using the mean value theorem in calculus, we can conclude that the derivative or the error gradient that you are going to compute, right, if you constrain each and everything under an L2 norm, then this is nothing but the supremum at the last hidden layer. Okay, all right. So therefore, what we do is we compute the maximum of the error gradient with respect to the weights and use the reciprocal as the learning rate. Now there could be a question here: why do you use reciprocal of the learning rate? We in a separate paper and a separate investigation, we have shown that if we use the reciprocal of this learning rate, you can actually show that the algorithm converges in a certain number of iterations. Okay, all right. So now, so therefore we set the learning rate in the gradient descent optimization to be exactly as the same as how gradient descent rule looks like, except for the fact that instead of the learning rate alpha, which is set by different empirical standards, in this case we just set it according to this rule that we have set. Okay, and we ensure that by this, if we do that, we ensure that the weight changes are always constrained between 0 and 1, so that the weight changes are not large. Okay, all right. So once this is done, this is like a snapshot of how you derive the Lipschitz constant, right? As I said, it's a mean square error, and you can simply compute the difference between two different inputs, and you can constrain the you can constrain the input between two different constrain the output between two different inputs. And the idea of showing a Lipschitz constant, using a Lipschitz continuity is that given two inputs W and V, whether the outputs are sort of constrained or contracted by some positive constant. So what you see on the right hand side is actually a Lipschitz constant, right? And we take the max of that as we go across layers, independent of the number of hidden layers that you decide to keep. And this is sort of what you get as the max. Okay, now K, there are several constants that you see on the right hand side. K subscript A denotes the maximum of the activation in the final layer of the neural network, and K subscript Z denotes the maximum of activation in the penultimate layer, just one layer before. Y denotes the target values, and M is the number of training set examples. Okay, so if you do that, so this is how you set the learning rate. Okay, now there is an approximate ReLU activation function. I really do not have much time to talk about it, but all I can say is that this is a slight modification of the existing ReLU activation, in the sense that we show that the existing ReLU activation and this particular variant of ReLU can be actually bounded in the L2 norm. Okay, if you precisely set the parameters of the approximate ReLU activation as K equal to 0.54 and N is equal to 1.3. Okay, as you can see in this particular activation function. Now, this particular activation function is if you do it this way, the exploding gradient is easy to control, and it does not admit of saddle points. Okay, and it also does not suffer from local minima problems. So these are some of the things, and it is also easy to show by virtue of intermediate value theorem that this particular A-ReLU activation function admits of a fixed point. Okay, and therefore ensures optimum. Base paper, which is DK based learning rate, the TJX-D with a 3-layer architecture, each containing 9,000 neurons, gives a best mean absolute error of 0.324, and our architecture, which is DJX based on Lipschitz adaptive learning rate with an approximate ReLU activation function with a 2 hidden layer architecture, each containing 9,000 neurons each, gives an mean absolute error of 0.3213, which is, I mean, you can clearly see that we are using one hidden layer less of 9,000 neurons. Okay, all right. And then, I mean, if I compare subsample wise, because since we subsampled, we wanted to compare the state-of-the-art optimizer again with on subsamples rather than on the entire data set. So we have done that. So we have done that using the number of neurons fixed as either 500 or 1500 and number of epochs fixed at 200, right? And different sort of activation functions, sigmoid, tanh, ReLU and A-ReLU. And as you can see, for both 500 neurons as well as 1500 neurons, I mean, our results are the best. Okay. And we continue this mean absolute error comparison while training on the original paper, the base paper on subsamples on 500 and 1500 neurons respectively, based on the fixed number of epochs, which is 200, under different activation functions. You can see that the base paper sort of their mean absolute error is greater than ours. Okay, all right. And when we did that, we did one experiment on the full data set. Okay, and there also you can see that their mean absolute error, the reported mean absolute error is greater than ours. Okay, so here in this case, what we did was we compared mean absolute error on the Lipschitz DJX versus the regular DJX. Both models are trained on identical subsamples, and you can see for both 100 and 200 epochs, our model performs better, which is the last column is our model. Our model performs better, right? That's the second column and the fourth column. You can see our model performs far better. Okay, all right. So, and you can see typically what happens when you use a Lipschitz learning rate and you set the learning rate according to the Lipschitz constant. Typically the first value that comes out, and this value keeps changing, right? Because you keep iterating. So typically it starts out with a very large learning rate. Okay, but then it drops quickly. Okay, so this particular figure shows a comparison of different activation functions. Okay, all right, and comparison of convergence of different activation functions, right? I mean, okay. So what we wanted to show was that our neural network learning of this particular task, like gene expression, can be achieved with limited computational resources, which is sort of counterintuitive. Okay, and specifically we used only 1 GPU with 4 GB RAM. Okay, all right. But in order to do this, you require a sort of a theoretical framework which we provided via Lipschitz adaptive learning rate for regression-based tasks. Okay, and we show empirically that we are doing much better, and our method beats the current state-of-the-art optimizer with one entire layer missing. Okay, thank you.